Evening is Adrian Mendoza, and Adrian is a multi-talented photographer, from journalism to street photography to aerial photography. We know him as someone who really enjoys sharing his knowledge with fellow photographers. Adrian was born in Modesto, California. He worked as a photojournalist for the Modesto Bee for 17 years and for the Manteca News for 6 years. Earlier on, he worked on a documentation project of the California Delta, photographing, chronicling, and cataloging more than 1,000 images. Ooh-wee. He also worked for the San Francisco Huffington Post Bureau, documenting the effects of gentrification, fueled primarily by tech startups on neighborhoods in the Mission District of San Francisco. We appreciate you, Adrian, for taking the time tonight to share your passion of photographing the performing arts with us.
It is. Thank you. Shall I go? Do I begin?
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
Well, as a preface to this right now, I just want to thank you for being here, number one, and thank you for inviting me. And so music is just a big part of my life. I just can't really live without it. And working for the Modesto Bee for all those years, and in my own time off work as well, I had assignments photographing all sorts of events. Anything that you see in the newspaper were things that I did, and from crime to you name it, weather shots, slice of life type thing. But probably some of my favorite work was photographing for the performing arts in different music events. And the thing that was great about being a member of the press was that I had the ability to, not only did I not have to pay to get into performances, I'd get paid to do that, and I'd be ushered up to the front of the stage right there, get primary or prime spot to get the shots, and then sometimes I'd have a deadline I'd have to get back, or other times I could stay for the whole event and just get it like a photo essay of it. So I in high school, which was many decades ago, I was really interested in acting. So I took a bunch of acting classes. I thought that I was going to pursue that as a career choice. And when I went to community college in Modesto, I found photography and decided to veer off into that, and I've never regretted that. So, but I've always had a kind of grounding, a fundamental, not only an interest, but also having been on stage myself, I feel comfortable in the genre, the environment of the theater. And one thing that I have been able to do and we'll get to that when we get to the theater part, is that I have been able to photograph. I pitched for a small black box theater in Modesto for them to allow me to photograph actually on stage. And the photograph, the lower right-hand side that you'll see on there, was actually taken during a dress rehearsal. And I was on stage, literally like just feet away from her. And I was just moving. I've got that confidence and the knowledge and the trust to be able to go having been on stage and moving around, kind of like being another character on stage, photographing like a filmmaker, in close-up shot, wide shot, and actually moving around the stage just like a regular blocking. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But last night I went to go listen to music. I listen to music in Santa Rosa and the general area a couple times a week. So I'm always out there photographing, always moving, dancing as I get older. That's one thing that I'm happy that I'm still doing, moving. So hope you all will do that too and pick up a few things, tips and things like that. First of all, any questions before I pursue this? Okay. If not, let's go on to the next one. Thank you. Okay, this was a band called the Silverado Pickups, and this was in Napa Valley at sunset, and they are illuminated by stage lights, and they're performing for a fundraiser, and it was a paid gig for me. But as I was photographing, I saw that the wine train was moving by, so I repositioned myself to get a side shot of them with the wine train in the background right there. So okay. Next. Okay, reminder as you're out there photographing crowds, don't forget to turn around and photograph the bands. Don't forget to turn around and turn the camera on the crowds themselves. They can always be interested. This, of course, was before COVID. This was the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival in San Francisco in 2013, and the band that they were there for was a band called Gogol Bordello. Okay, next. This was also a paid gig. I did some contract work for a nonprofit called Music in the Vineyards, which was a chamber music festival in Napa Valley. And so I worked for them for about 5 years, 5 seasons. And this was at the Hess collection. And the thing I want to point out is, as far as timing goes, well, there are a couple of things. Number one, it's imperative for any photographer or any audience member to not do anything that is going to distract the audience or the performers at all. So my advice to you is to make sure that you're always respectful of the audience and the performers as well. So in this one, I still don't have a mirrorless camera. So this was shot from the back of the room, a 135 millimeter lens. No, excuse me, it was an 85 millimeter lens from the back of the room. And I had it, on a tall tripod on live view with a cable, electronic release. So I wasn't touching the camera at all. And being on live view, the shutter was a lot quieter than the regular shutter of a standard Canon 5D Mark II. So when I would shoot, I would try to make sure that I was shooting at like the accent. It's like the downbeat, the crescendo, a place where there's going to be a loud portion, or in this point, it was obviously at the end of the performance right there. And so ideally, in catching the peak of the action, you want to make sure, a photographer wants to make sure that they get, when there's strings there, to get the violins all up like that. And that was right after the performance, at the end of the performance there. And with the artwork right there in that winery, the Hess collection, the gaze of the person right there is echoed by the gaze of the vocalist right there. And it was totally coincidental because, she wasn't looking at me at all during the performance. And she just happened to catch the gaze as I took the last shot right there. It was just kind of interesting to have that echo of that eye contact between the artwork in the background and the vocalist right there. So, any questions? Okay, next. This was also with the Music in the Vineyards, but this was at the Inglenook Winery, and it's an old space right there. I think that particular place is over 100 years old. So there's an actual like an attic space where I had to climb up on top of. The whole audience was right below me, and so I had to be up there, put my camera on the tripod during the break, of course, and I just stayed there during that time. And once again, to make sure that I was quiet, that I did not distract anyone at all, and to have a view right there. And this was just an 85 millimeter lens. I'd say 90% of the photographs that you will see taken today, or maybe 80%, were taken with an 85 millimeter a Canon 5D with an 85 millimeter 1.8 lens. So, okay. Next. And so symphony orchestras, this was the Modesto Symphony Orchestra, and I offered to volunteer to take photographs for them. And the thing that I can recommend to you is that there are a lot of agencies, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of musical groups, dance troupes, theater groups that are always looking for good photography. Most of them don't have much of a budget, so there's a good chance that you're going to be donating your services. But so I'm here to give you a few tips on how you can make the most of that. And at the same time, the really great thing about photographing for different musical or performing arts is that you get to go into places and don't have to pay for it, and to get primary seating. For example, the photographs that the locations that I took of the music in the vineyards in the previous couple of photographs were minimum of $85 per ticket. And so those, of course, were a paid gig. This was an unpaid, but I had free reign and got to listen to some great music and meet some great people. And in this particular case, usually so this is David Lockington as the music director, and he was also for the Modesto Symphony, was also the music director for Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the featured artist right there, the pianist is Natalie Poremski. And I actually believe she has performed with the Santa Rosa Symphony Orchestra as well. Okay, next. This is Stephen Reinecke, and he was the pops conductor for the Modesto Symphony. There was the symphony orchestra and then the pops conductor. And Stephen Reinecke, he began his career in Modesto, and now he is the music director for the New York Pops. So his home theater is Carnegie Hall. So think about that as you're photographing, that you don't know what position the person that you're photographing is going to be in at a later point in their career. So I have a couple of Stephen. This is during performance, and he always gave a big finish. Unlike Lockington in the previous one, he was Reinecke, very flamboyant, and just really played the audience for the big finish right there. And so I have two more of him in different angles. It's just to show you the different perspectives that you can have as a photographer of public performances. Next.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that.
So this was just an outdoor performance. It was called Picnic at the Pops, and I think that year he had ABBA. So the whole program were the songs of ABBA, and this was at the grounds of the Gallo Administration Building, Gallo Winery Administration Building. That's where Gallo is based in Modesto. Okay, next. And this was the day before during a dress rehearsal, and so I was able to move around and silhouetted against the setting sun. So that's the shot there.
Wow.
Next. And this was actually during a performance as well. And he has his back to the audience. I'm on stage shooting, like I said, probably with the 85, so I'm relatively close. And the illumination on his face and in his glasses is from the light coming behind him, bouncing off of the sheet music on his stand right there. And so be aware of things like that as you're photographing, the little highlights. The highlights are really what make this photograph, in my opinion. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was there a question? No? Okay. By the way,
just admiring it.
okay. By the way, I want to thank Bill. Special shout out to Bill for handling the slideshow of this. Thanks. I went by his residence yesterday to drop off a flash drive, and you're doing a great job, Bill. Thank you.
Great. So far, so good.
Thank you. Next.
Oh,
Yeah, this is Dave Brubeck. So in 2007, a former coworker of mine at the Modesto Bee went on to work as the public information officer for the University of the Pacific. The OP is the alma mater Dave Brubeck, and so one day my friend called me up and he said, "How would you like to do portraits of Dave Brubeck?" And I said, "Sure." So Brubeck. So I set up lighting. So this is the only photographs in here that I use like portable lighting, strobes, and reflector. And it's a little cliched, pretty stylized art, but that's what they were looking for the portraits for the university. And he was just a total gentleman. He was not a, I asked him to pose. He was very cooperative and just a great joy to photograph. And in fact, in the next shot, if you go to the next one, I asked him if he would play me a song. So he actually played a song for me so I could get a close-up of his hands.
mhm.
So reminders, you're photographing for different performances, make sure you get close-ups. They're just, it's part of detailing it. And, approaching this as a historian, you're trying to get a record of what was there for whatever purposes you want. But the piano, the beauty in the hands right there, the fact that he played a song for me, take advantage of the situation when you can like that. Okay, next. And this was Brubeck in performance with Roberta Gambarini was a guest vocalist on the song, and here she's singing this take 5. And even though it looks like compressed, what it was it's not as compressed as it looked. They were actually jammed into a very small corner of the stage because they were having a big performance on the other part of the stage later on. So it's a pretty straight shot right there. Maybe it was a slight telephoto, but not much. Maybe like a 135 from the back of the theater, but it wasn't that tight. But I really love the way the lighting came out on this right here. So, okay.
I like how they all look different
Yeah.
moods.
Go ahead, next. So this woman, let's see, her name is Michelle Lambert, and she's a local North Bay woman. And this was taken last summer at the Peacetown, and this is in Sebastopol. Have any of you ever been to that music event? They're free.
I've been there. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, every Wednesday, probably coming up, starting I think about the first week of June, and they usually have 2 bands, and they play for free, and it's always great music. And this was interesting because in the photograph that I took, usually the artists don't make eye contact with me, and in this case, she was just like playing, and then suddenly she just looked at me, and I got the shot. But the kind of the cute thing that I found in this was that there's a strand coming down from the horsehair on the bow, and then you've got a strand of hair just kind of moving up, kind of echoing like that. So there's a little bit of whimsy in that. So I like that. So anyway, next. This is a woman by the name of Rebecca Roudman who has a band called Dirty Cello. Has anybody seen them or heard of them?
I've heard of them. I haven't heard them live yet.
Yeah, I met her in when I was living in San Francisco, and this was a photograph that was taken in 2013. And then after I moved up here in 2014, I've seen her a couple times since then. So anyway, that's about it. This is just a portrait session that I had did for the entire band that I offered to do. Like I said, I just wanted to build up my portfolio of musicians, and so I've gotten in. You know, she's invited me to some of the concerts that she's had, and like I said, I just love music so much. I just always want to engage with music. Okay. Next. And so the thing about the previous shot, and we don't have to go back to it, but I just wanted to let you know that that one and this one here, and her name is Laura Downs, Lara Downs. This was all window light, so it's not studio. The previous one was in a kind of a funky bar in San Francisco. This was taken inside a music store right on Market Street that had an open window, and that particular day the store was closed, and the owner of the store allowed us to go in there to do portraits. She was doing an album about a tribute to Billie Holiday, and so that accounts for the flower in her hair and the pose. So
The reflection is great.
yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next. Okay, as you're out photographing, don't forget the other people who are working, the sound people. They always appreciate to have photographs of them. This was in this was in Modesto at an outdoor concert, and it was I was on a hydraulic lift, and decided just to point the camera straight down at the sound guy right there. Sound, I think that's just sound. I don't know if that's lighting as well. But anyway, you know, as you're photographing, don't forget to photograph the technicians. It's just, you know, a little slice of life of just the overall environment of what the sound and theatrical work is. Okay, and the next one is, go ahead to the next. If you've heard the saying, I could do that in my sleep.
That's funny.
Okay, nothing enough to say about that. Go ahead, next. This was at that same concert that I showed earlier of Gogol Bordello. This was backstage, and I got in tight, right? Her name is Elizabeth Sun, and she was a backup singer for Gogol Bordello. And despite what it looks like, she's not praying. Somebody is working on her hair. They're fixing her bun in the back. I cropped them out, but that's what is going on right there. But I just love the pose and just kind of a very contemplative, nice lighting, and the very interesting makeup on her. But for me, what really makes it are the gold fingernails. Okay, next. And this was taken about 3 weeks ago at the California Theater in Santa Rosa. It's on 7th Street. And if you haven't been to the California Theater, I highly recommend it. It's a great place where there's music at least 2 or 3 times a week, and they have plays going on there. And this woman's name is Schlee. It's Schlee, short for Ashley, but her stage name, she just goes by Schlee. And just a lovely performance, very quiet and beautiful songs that she wrote, and played that lovely auto harp. The rose on there kind of echoes the flowers on her tattoos right there.
Mhm.
How close were you for this shot?
That was 85 millimeter.
85.
Yeah. And those little lights in the background, those are as a result of the bokeh, however you pronounce it, just little spotlights back behind her.
Mhm.
And that accounts for that right there. And so I think you may see another couple shots with that little bursts of light behind them. Okay, next.
No.
And this was taken in Modesto. Her name was Lisa Boucher, And this was about 2008, I believe. And just like the pose, the thing that I like to find out sometimes before as I'm kind of scoping things out beforehand, is well, this doesn't apply in this case because she's not holding the microphone, but sometimes I will ask the promoter or the sound person, what hand does the person use to hold the microphone? Because if they hold it with the right hand side, you don't want to be on the side that is going to be blocked with that. You want to shoot into the opposite side with it.
Good plan.
Yeah, good point.
Good plan.
Okay, next. And this was a band called the Iron Maidens, an Iron Maiden heavy rock tribute band in Modesto. And I got up high to get the drummer. Drummers very often do not get any coverage, any photographs, because they're buried behind their cymbals and their drum kits. And so this was taken from balcony shooting down. And a while to hear the heavy metal by an all women band that just kind of rocked. Okay, next. And this is Terry Nunn from the band Berlin. And same thing that I was talking about, she holds the microphone with her left hand right there. And I was at the same theater, and I was on the opposite side shooting down on her just to, then I get the shots. A lot of times, like in the classical work that I showed you earlier, it's required for the photographer, for me, to pretty much stay in one spot, because you can't really move around. Any movement is going to cause unwanted distractions to the audience, and that's one thing. If you got a loud rock and roll band, it's a little easier to move around and weave in and out, which I do. But if it's quiet ballads, then pretty much pick your spot and stay there. Okay, next. And look for gestures, as your photo. I mean, they don't have to actually always be performing it. And this is a local gentleman at the California Theater. His name is Roger Volz, Volz, and he has a band called Soul Fuse. And he's, when he gets up there and talks, he talks about gentleness and about kindness. Be kind to each other and things. And this photograph really interprets who he is and the soul that he has as a musician. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, next. And this was David J. David J. Was at he was the main performer who was at the California Theater when Schlee opened for him. And so he was in a band called Bauhaus. There was a punk band from the 70s. And he also went on to form another band called Love and Rockets. So he has a couple connections to Santa Rosa. So he was playing in San Francisco 3 days after this performance at the California Theater. But the bass player, his name is Darwin Memes, I believe, and John Courage are both from Santa Rosa. And so it wasn't announced until like the very last minute, like 2 days before it. So you never know who's going to show up in town and have a great performance that, is going to be a big name that you might be able to catch at a small club. That's all I'm saying. Keep an eye out for that. So. And I was telling you about the lights before, and this is the first time I'd ever shot those lights from the back, because I'm usually up close because I want the bloom of the bokeh. And so there's those 4 lights right there, just like supernovas kind of coming out, a little bit of a blur right there. Just kind of add to kind of like a astronomical look, like a space constellation or something. Anyway, go ahead. Next. And this was a band called the Perfect Strangers. The gentleman second from the right, his name is Kevin Russell, who's a local, does folk and country and Western swing. And this was at the California Theater as well. And so I had to back off into the steps at the theater right there to get the entire band. And so, like I said, you know, move around when you can and get shots, close-ups, long shots, you know, whatever you're able to do that is still respectful towards the band. Okay, thank you. Next. I've seen, you know, gestures as well. This was a band called the Hot Licks, which consisted of former members of the late Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks. And so they performed at the California Theater last September. And they were giving props to the bass player, and that's what the gentleman at right is doing, is just kind of bowing down to thanks to our bass player, essentially, right there. So be looking for, you know, little gestures like that as you're photographing. Okay, next. And this was, believe it or not, there's a Pink Floyd tribute band called Pete Floyd. It's P-E-T-E. And their two guitarists in there are both named Pete. And that's how they came up with the name Pete Floyd. So this woman's name, she's usually backup vocalist, but here they gave her the spotlight for a few minutes. And her name is Teal Collins, like the color teal. And just, like I said, just trying to find the peak of the action right there. You know, whether it be sports or the what's it called? The decisive moment. You know, that's what I try to strive for, is to get the peak of the action right there. And I think this pretty much embodies that. So, okay, next. And this is a regular, his name is Alvon, A-L-V-O-N Johnson, who he lives in East Bay, but he comes around and plays a couple times a year at the California Theater. Every Monday night they have blues there, and I'm always there. And the interesting thing is that I have my 85 millimeter camera, 85 millimeter lens with my camera, Canon 5D Mark II, and I always dance. I always dance. So as I'm, you know, moving around and, you know, to the music, and then I'll just stop on a beat and get a couple shots, and then I'll go back to dancing. It's just kind of my shtick. But you know what? That I'm able to do that. And give it a try yourselves. Just go out there and dance. And that's why you don't need a big zoom lens. Don't carry around a lot of equipment. I do it all with an 85 millimeter lens, or I do almost all my music with an 85. And so you don't need something that is going to bump into the dancers next to you. So that's my recommendation to you. Okay. And in this particular one, you know, trying to find, once again, the peak of the action to display, to show the guitar and the gesture and the movement and the joy of that. Okay, next. And this is a local hero. His name is Volker Striffler, and he's just an amazing guitarist. He plays blues as well, and he will be playing this summer at Peacetown. Do not miss him if you'd like just kick-ass rock. I mean, blues. I mean, he's just an amazing guitarist. I mean, it's unbelievable. You could search him out, and I'm sure you can find him on YouTube or Facebook, and just search out his music, and you'll be amazed at just what a stunning virtuoso he is at guitar. So, okay.
What was his name again?
Volker, it's a V. It's like Volkswagen, Volker, and his last name is Striffler. Striffler. If you need a reminder, just text me or email me, and I'll send you the name so you can remember it. Okay, next.
Wow.
Okay, next how are we doing on time?
Good.
Okay. this was, her name is sorry, Christine Van Loo. She was with a troupe called Cirque de la Symphonie, and she was an aerial performer. And I asked, this was when I was still photographing for the Modesto Symphony Orchestra. So this was the Symphony Pops part of it, where they had a cirque come in, former members of the Cirque du Soleil come in and perform during the music. And I think they probably have played with the Santa Rosa Symphony as well. And so I asked her if I could get a photograph beforehand as she was warming up, and she said yes. So this was, I'm sure each of you probably do this every morning, after coffee. But to me, it was just stunning. And so remember that as you're photographing different performers, particularly dancers or actors and actresses, to get them as they're getting ready, as they're warming up, because it's to demonstrate. You don't just go out there. You've got to, it's like we as photographers, we don't just go out there and photograph because we have a camera. It's we have years worth of experience, and we've spent a lot of money and years of practice doing that. And then people show up sometimes and they think, take a picture for me. It's easy. But anyway, point taken. Next. So this is her during the actual performance there. And once again, that's Stephen Reinecke, the one who's at Carnegie Hall right now, at the podium. And okay, next. And this is another performer. Her name was Elena Sarkova, and a contortionist. And next. Her as well, just the ribbon, just a beautiful dancer. So the thing I want is just grace. The as I said before, the peak of the action, the decisive moment. And I think this pretty much embodies that right there.
Yeah.
Next. This was taken at the California Theater, and this was a monthly burlesque show that they have. And this was probably the tamest one that I could show you from that. But this was, she goes by the name of Forbidden Magician, and she's got a black light up there, and she has all these hula hoops, and just I was just amazed at the way she was able to handle all those at the same time. And so I did get permission. I am the kind of de facto house photographer for the California Theater, so I do all their music. And when I first heard of, when I was first invited to photograph the Forbidden Kiss show is what the burlesque shows are called. When the CEO recommended going to that, all I heard was Kiss. And so I showed up thinking that it was going to be a Kiss tribute band. And so I show up, and there's like drag performances. So I mean, it kind of hits the spectrum of it's not just men and women in scantily clad, but there's also plenty of drag shows and some kind of body humor up there. It's kind of a trip. And I'm happy to support. Okay, next.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, this is Ballet Folklorico, in case you can't tell. This was taken from one of the few shots that that was not with an 85. So this was taken from a back of a small theater in Modesto. And I put on a tripod and with a 135, and I think I probably took the shutter speed down to about maybe 15th of a second. So that way all the swirls of the dresses, would just blur into one. It's So remember that as photographers, when you're going out there and getting dance performances, you don't have to get everything crystal clear. You can take advantage of the blur on that, especially for dance performances where they're, swirling things around. Okay, next. This was they're called the strongmen, the same Cirque de la Symphonie of the other performers, and just the strength and the agility of those, just stunning right there. Okay. Next. So in the dancing thing, this is there've been a couple of dancers that I've photographed who have done several times. So this particular dancer by the name of Stephanie Reisfeld was just strength. This particular photograph was taken on the steps of San Francisco City Hall in June of 2013. And the reason why I got that photograph right there was because the week prior was the day that the governor approved gay marriage. And the city of San Francisco said they were going to open up City Hall on a Saturday to have more weddings, because what they were fearful that the court was going to overturn it. So there was a lot of rush to get weddings in, and that's why they opened it up on Saturday. With that knowledge that it was going to be open on Saturday, I knew that the people were going to be there lining up to register. They weren't going to be in the rotunda. So I called my friend Stephanie. I said, let's go in there into the rotunda. There was nobody there. And I had about 20 minutes before anybody showed up, of her just like doing different poses on the steps of San Francisco City Hall. So anyway, go on to the next. And that's right here inside there as well, in the room next to the rotunda. And nobody inside there. I had her running from far side to the left, and she did some leaps. There's plenty of lighting come from not solar panels. What do you call it? I hate getting old because I forget stuff. The lighting from above. Anyway, never mind. Next. This was the second time I photographed her. This was taken on in Treasure Island at the administration building, and I asked the security guard there if I could go up on the mezzanine level, which people were normally not allowed to do that, but I asked him, and he allowed me. So I got up there, and so we photographed once again on a tripod, so the background is all perfectly in synchronization. But I got multiple frames of her and then composited them in photograph. And this is what she referred to as her levitating the wand right there. So it's something that she did on occasional performances when she did that. So it's just great to have an amazing dancer to be able to photograph, to work with. And I just feel so privileged to be able to do that with someone of such talent like that. Okay, next. And this was taken inside that same building, the administration building on Treasure Island. And so she, as not only an agile woman, but a very strong woman, she climbed up on the ledge of that window right there and just did these different ballet poses right there. It was just okay. Next. This was a different cirque. This was at the University of the Pacific, where there was an event. They had former cirque personnel there as well. And the part we're getting into right now is I'm going to demonstrate the initial pose, the gesture, and then I'm going to show you what I did in Photoshop. Well, not all of it is Photoshop. It's a filter plugin that was into Photoshop that I've kind of adopted for many years now. And so we'll go to the next one so you can see it.
Oh, wow.
So this software actually came out in 1998. It's called Kai's Power Tools, and it's a plugin for Photoshop. And I keep an old Mac computer just to be able to still use that on occasion. And so, like I said, I've been using it for over 20 years now, over 20 years. Well, yeah. Next. This is Stephanie as well. This was the third time that we had done a session together. This was taken in 2016 here in Santa Rosa. And so within that circle right there, after I did it, I wondered what I could create with another version of that software. And if you go on to the next one, Bill.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So remember that, photographing people, who are graceful in movement is that the original photograph isn't the end of the line for you. And you can find, especially now with AI and other kinds of commands out there, that you can take your software or your image and reinterpret it in a way that you choose to yourself that pleases you. So, I encourage you who are interested in this to just kind of push the envelope into creative outlets. So, next. So this was Stephanie in blue, and this is another dancer who I'd worked with for the same amount of times, 3 times, by the name of Jackie. And this was the first time that they had met. Like they had met like 20 minutes earlier, because I photographed Stephanie in the morning, and then I had booked a session with Jackie in the afternoon. And so I asked Stephanie if she would like to meet her, which she did. And so they improvised this. I said, do whatever you want. And the thing about it is I have to encourage you, if you want to photograph dancers, is to find a space that is large enough for you to number one, for them to function in, and for you to photograph in a way that is pleasing without having to worry about getting additional electronic lighting in there for that. So to just improvise as they're improvising there, we as photographers improvise with what we have at hand. Okay. So this is another one where I did a reimagining through software. Let's go to the next one. So this is still part of that same, I think pretty much all of the tweaks is the word that I use in here is we're by that same suite of filters called Kai's Power Tools that are in 1998 is when they were released. Next. And there's Stephanie, and then there's the different tiling right there of using like a kaleidoscope filter, and just using her as the gradation of the dress ends up looking like just regular gradients there in the filter. If you just looked at the one in the middle, you might not even
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to see that there's a person in that, but it's just a pattern.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, next. And that is Jackie. And this was at a, can't really say where it was because I technically was not allowed to get that particular photograph there because Jackie and I were walking through that building, and she said, "Oh, I can fit inside that circle right there." I said, "Really?" And so she did, and so I got a few shots. So this was actually, believe it or not, was an HDR. So so I shot it. She actually stood still for 3 contiguous exposures because I wanted to make sure that I got detail in the glass block on the lower right-hand side right there. And
Wow.
Okay, next. So I was Jack in the same building, as you can see. And so I did a tweak on this one right here, and you'll see the next one on it. This is called hypertiling or something like that. This is software. Okay. Next. Okay. And be conscious of lighting. This was, once again, with an 85mm lens her name was Kristen Damrow, and so she had a little theater group, not a dance troupe. That these are all volunteer things that I volunteer to do, and like I said, I'm really grateful to have good, strong dance athletes to be able to photograph, and of course they get many photographs for themselves. And so it's a good exchange. So as I said, there's probably throughout the communities where you live plenty of different dance and theater and music groups that could use really good photography. So I would highly, if you're interested in this, I would highly recommend checking it out. Okay, next. Okay. Same thing. Next.
Great.
So I believe she lives on the Russian River now. This was in San Francisco, but her name is Pearl Merrill, Merrill, and she is just a stunning dancer, and so strong and graceful in the leap. And she did this whole episode with that stuffed elephant down there in the balloon. I don't know what it was about, but she did the leap, and then of course catching the shadow in the back was really what made the photograph.
Yeah.
Okay, next. And this was during a break, and this was in Kristen Damrow's group that I dance troupe earlier. And during the break, they were just sitting around, and there was the lighting in the background. So I just positioned myself so she was silhouetted with the rim of the light around. So once again, just to remember that once the performances or the practice rehearsals stop, doesn't mean that you're, think of the things that Degas did in photographing the dancers, as they're putting their makeup on, as they're preening a bit, not necessarily on stage themselves, but just getting ready performances. And the thing that I really love about dancers is they're very self-aware of their bodies, and they move gracefully. Even when, it's like when you see a dancer just stand at ease, you see them cross their feet down at the bottom right there in a very graceful pose. It's like the same thing. There's just something that it's a body memory that gives them all very often a graceful stance. Okay, next. Okay, now we're into the theatrical part, the last portion. I'll try and breeze through here because I know we're getting kind of late. So during warm up before a rehearsal for the play 42nd Street, this was in 2002, and I had known the director of the play for many years. I mean, I photographed him when I worked for the newspaper, and I had known him actually before that. But he had confidence in me to be able to go up on stage and not to bother them, and to get the photographs that he wanted for the program. So it's, think of a relationship, get to know the directors, the key people. and let them know that you're interested and you're skilled in being able to do this. And look for things like this. Okay, next. Same theater, you can see right there. This is the music director right there. So get the personnel. As I showed you with the sound engineers earlier right there, give some love to the technical people, because usually it's just the actors, the dancers who get the publicity, get the photos, and the people who are behind the scenes, the key people, who are very often ignored. So think about that too. Okay, next. And this is the director, Paul Tischer, that I was talking about. And because I knew that he trusted me, I very easily was able to get behind him and show him as he's giving directions in real time and the dancers back behind him. And so you don't have to be shy, but be respectful and make sure you don't knock anything over. Be very aware of where you're standing and where you're moving as you're photographing backstage. Okay, next. This is the only photograph in this group where I actually posed it. This is a high school play for the promo for the play that they were doing at the high school called 12 Angry Jurors. Originally, it was called 12 Angry Men when it came out in the 50s. And so how do I photograph 12 people in a play? And I figured, if you have the fourth wall, which what I did, but they did not know. But I had this in my mind. They did not know when I took the photograph that I was setting up like the Last Supper. And so as you're photographing in any kind of scenario, I always have this data bank of all sorts of art, other photographs, things you've seen in movies, you name it. Just think of that in the back of your mind and say, how could I set this up? Oh yeah, that reminds me of the raising of the flag on Iwo Jima or whatever. I mean, speaking of, well, never mind, I won't get into that. Okay, so that's that's my only pose now. And the next ones from the rest of them were all taken. Oh, except I apologize. This was taken at 6th Street Playhouse in 2023, and this was the play Always Patsy Cline. So I got there, and this was actually taken during the performance, which I almost never do because, for obvious reasons, it would be distracting. But in this particular case, the director asked me if I'd be willing to take photographs of it, which I said I was. But I stood in the back of the theater. This was with an 85mm lens, which was the only lens I had with me that day anyway. And I set my camera on the tripod, and I live view with the cable release, electronic release, and I just waited for the key action. There was also a live band that was there that played music as well that kind of covered the sound of the shutter, even the electronic shutter going off. So this was actually maybe 2/50th of a second at 1600 ISO during that performance right there. So anyway, go on to the next one. Okay. This was during dress rehearsal, not on stage, because the director wouldn't allow me to do it. But to me, photographing during a dress rehearsal is the only thing to do to be able to. Virginia Woolf, who's afraid of Virginia Woolf in Modesto, and like I said, I love photographing during dress rehearsals because to photograph when people are just set up and playing, it's just so stilted like that. So I like the action, and I've never had an actor or an actress break character while I was photographing them. So it's not as difficult as you might think that it would be. In fact, I kind of have a belief that that maybe my presence there on stage, it's not on stage here, but during the dress rehearsal, forces them to stay in character even harder because they have this guy right there photographing just a few feet away from them, and so they have to actually concentrate even more on that character. At least that's my theory, and I've never had a person tell me that they broke character. Okay, next. Okay. Next. So this is one, and this is all the same. From here on out to the end are all the same theater troupe. It's called the Prospect Theater Project in Modesto. And I was able to convince them, and they allowed me probably for about 10 different plays over about maybe 5 years to actually get on stage. So I'm on stage photographing, and she's facing into the audience. I mean, it's a dress rehearsal, so there's no audience there that day, but I'm actually on stage photographing behind her and just moving around, as the characters block around the stage, I move like water to different positions. Go on to the next one, please.
Yeah.
And you just can't get this in a setup scene. I mean, it's just there's just not as much of an authenticity to it when you just tell them, okay, on the count of 3, just make it.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Next. Now, another factor you have to take into account when you're photographing on stage, and this is a prime example, and you'll see it throughout the rest of the photographs here, is that the lighting is is very often changes. So you can't just count on having one setting on stage.
Mm.
And so I had to, and you would have to make adjustments by just the knowledge. You look at a scene like this, and the meter is going to say it's going to be this amount, but based on the light contrast right there, that you're going to need to underexpose about a full stop. And I always shoot in RAW, so the quality remains. But I did a pretty good job of, I'm not checking my metering at all. I'm setting it. I pretty much know I'm going to be at 2/50th of a second at 1600, and sometimes I'll be shooting with no compensation, but very often I'll have to move in real time as I'm moving across the stage and underexpose from half a stop to a full stop to a stop and a half. So, and like I said, this is actual movement. So he's actually moving. It's part of the scene that's going on right there, and I'm moving up close to him. Okay, so next. So here I'm down below them, shooting up with a wide angle lens. And so, like I said, just to be able to have that confidence to be able to do that and move up without interfering, without blocking their way, without knocking anything over. And most importantly, to not have them break character at all. Okay, next. Next. This is 2004. This was, I think, the first one I did for the Prospect Theater project, and the lighting was just really, really difficult in this one right here. As you can see, there's candlelight right there, and kind of diffuse spots, and the light changed quite a bit throughout the course of the play. But I'm also moving as well as the character is going. So if I had been shooting from the audience, I wouldn't have been able to get this angle right here. And so, like I said, shooting like a filmmaker is what essentially I'm doing, and moving in. But it's something I love, but it's very difficult to get a director to be able to agree to that. Right, you really need to have some experience on stage, and well, give it a try if you know of any directors or any plays that you might be involved with. Give it a try. Okay, next. I think that was one in the very first preview. That, like I said, I was just arms length away from her right there, and getting the emotion in the face and the next one. And this is the final one. So thank you so much, everyone. And I'm happy to answer any questions or that you might have.
I have a question. These performances, it's often kind of dark in there, and the performers are moving, and you said even you are moving, and it's hard to get a good shot. So what are your settings?
Well, as I said, I'm having to make adjustments as I'm moving, and I can't really look at my meter. I just have to automatically know that has a ratio that is going to be underexposed, a stop, or half a stop, or a stop and a half. Usually, it's not going to be overexposed, so I know it's going to usually be at least half a stop underexposed, just by virtue of just the light contrast. Does that make sense? That answer your question?
Yeah, I guess, but also high ISO.
Yeah, anywhere between 1200 to 1600.
Do you use a spot meter or something like that to, like, if you got the key faces and different lighting like that?
No, like I said, I take a general reading of the stage lighting, and then I just make adjustments. I don't have time to take another reading because they're moving, and so I underexpose as I'm moving along. I know that next scene right there is going to be, a stop to half a stop underexposed, just by virtue of just the
right, yeah.
It's all done on the fly.
I see. Yeah, just experience. That's it.
Practice.
It is experience. It is experience, but also you need to experiment with that yourself as well. When you're doing it, eventually you'll get, okay, this is about the sweet spot right here. And then shooting in RAW helps a lot because you have a lot more latitude in a RAW file than you would in just like a JPEG.
Do you shoot in manual or aperture priority or anything?
I shoot in manual.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
No, wait. No, I shoot in shutter priority.
Shutter priority.
On my shutter speed.
Yeah. I was wondering about that too, is like your shutter speed to keep everybody crisp during the movements and like that. I was curious what you're doing. I see you say 2/50th of a second. And just...
Yeah, 250 is kind of the primary. I'd say 80% of my photographs done on stage, and I'm talking music, in theaters, is 2/50th of a second. It's just like it's kind of like the spot that I found that works. That's 1/25th would be too slow if there's any movement. 2/50th, 320 sometimes if there's enough light in there, but 250 at 1600. I don't like to go up above that on ISO, just by virtue of keeping the noise level at a manageable level.
So you primarily use your 85
That's correct.
millimeter, and that's a 1.8.
To 1.8.
Okay.
I see easily 80% of my photographs of performance are 85. And like I said, it's a 135 is just too long. And zoom lens, like I said, if you have a zoom lens, I mean, if you have an 85, use it. If you have a 50 millimeter, that'd be better than taking in the zoom. Get a little wider. Sometimes I wish that I had a little wider shot than the 85. And California theater, I can't really back up much because there's dancers behind me. So I'm almost always up front.
Mm-hmm.
It gets loud. I'm partially deaf, so take your earplugs seriously. If you're going to be photographing music, and if you want to get up closer, just pop them in. Make sure you don't get any more ear damage that you might have.
I also have a Canon 5D Mark II, and I have an 85 millimeter f1.2 lens, which is my favorite lens. For shooting nighttime parades and things on the street. So it's similar lighting conditions, and it is a really crisp lens, and the colors are beautiful. Something else, when you brought up Kai's power tools, I also used Kai power tools, and it's something called Super Goo, which I used for distortions. And it was many years before any other software came along that came close to it. So I also kept old Macs around, and I run virtual machines on my current Mac so I can emulate and run old software. So yes,
you and I need to talk offline. Okay. Yeah.
Adrian, I think it's great that you knew everybody's name.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean performers?
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, the people you took pictures of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did write them down. I did remember that, and occasionally you saw me, but I remembered them anyway. But during a presentation like this, just gotta kind of escape.
What paper?
I'm sure none of you have any memory issues at all.
No.
Oh, geez.
What paper do you photograph for?
Photographed for the Modesto Bee for 17 years, and for the Manteca News for about 6 years before that. So that was just that was just a small community newspaper. It was all black and white, but it sure beat working.
Sounds like it was work.
Yeah.
And your street photography is great too.
Yeah. Well, we sure appreciate you coming. My God.
Yes, thank you much.
Really invaluable information. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, are any of you interested in doing music or play or dance photography, or do you do it already? How many of you do that?
Oh.
Anybody?
You have to check it out.
Yeah, I think be a cool thing to
Oh, you
try.
do some.
Shoot in a bar.
Yeah.
Like I
The
said,
Sebastopol music program is really good. Every once in a while I get down there when it's going, and you can take your camera and do some interesting stuff down there.
Yeah, the Peace Town.
but most importantly, when you go out there, dance. Dance.
Sounds like a plan.
Really, no.
We'll see you out there.
As we get older, we all need to
Move.
Keep moving.
Yeah.
Moving.
Oh, here's one thing also that when I photographed for the Chamber Music Festival, the Music in the Vineyards, there would be, like I told you, that the camera was on a tripod, and there were times after I knew that I had what I needed in the can, I would still have the cable release there. I would close my eyes, and I would listen to the music, and I would see if I could get the peak of the action through just listening to the music. And here's my thoughts behind that, though. But listen, when I'm looking through either through the viewfinder or the live view right there, by the time I see something happening and I trip the electronic release, the moment has already passed.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas if I'm just listening to it, then I'm hearing the music and I can anticipate it coming up like that, and I know that I don't have to rely on my eyes for that to trip the shutter. And so try that sometime. Really, maybe if you even point it towards you, whether a performance, it's hard to do that if you're out in public like that. I know that, like, even on a TV screen, photograph something right there and give it a try. Put it on your tripod, your release, and then just close your eyes and see if you can judge when that ballet or that guitar peak is going to happen, and that will help, get you geared towards, searching for the peak of the action, the decisive moment. Like I said, to me, I do that as just kind of like an exercise to see if I can do it, and it has worked. It does work. It's just I do it for fun, but I mean,
a somewhat analogous way of shooting. I would hang the 5D around my neck, so it's down on my chest like a Hasselblad, and I would practice walking through crowds, not looking at the camera, but just looking. And every time I would see something interesting, I would snap, and the shots are from a lower angle. So you get a lot of interesting shots that way. And it's good practice for getting sort of eye-hand feel without having to look through a viewfinder.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Go out and photograph music, dance to the music, and try and find dancers. Maybe if you've got some in your family, maybe you're a dancer yourself. I don't know, but like I said,
Yeah.
don't necessarily dance. I tell people I flail, but
Flail.
at least I move. Here's the other thing. So when one thing I learned about the conductor is when they're, you think that the conductor is not doing anything, but what they're really doing is they're keeping time. And so when I'm dancing during the music, I'm keeping time, not just exercising, but I'm also keeping time. And so I can, get and some of you have seen me how I hold my camera, because I have a tremor. And so I have the camera and I put it right here on there, and I kind of do a quick thing like that. And so, and you don't have to pay me much if you decide that you want to hold it that way as well. I'll give you a good discount.
That's a good idea.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm always looking for a way to stabilize that camera and those long,
Yeah, I mean,
long exposures and stuff.
Works really well. Exactly, it works really well.
Uh-huh.
And did you see Bill? Bill, hold that up again. Watch Bill. See? Exactly. And it works really well.
Yeah, there you go, Bill.
And if you go out in public, people say, "I know where you got that from."
Yeah. You know Adrian?
Oh boy, I love talking about this. I mean, I could go on and on. I hope I kept this, didn't drag it out too long, but
That's a good
No.
time.
Great.
Perfect.
Time
Absolutely.
flew by.
Thank you so much. We're going to see you out at the music
Thank
venue.
you.
I hope you do. And just don't take a photo of me, okay? Just
Oh, we're going to photograph you dancing.
Yeah, that's the shot we
Yeah,
gotta
they
get.
got the guys behind the scene. That's what you told us. That's the photographer never gets.
You're
a
right.
picture.
You're right.
That's the
Yeah.
shot we
So
gotta
much.
get.
I might even have a picture of you.
Nobody.
I do.
Well, now you're on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. That's a start.
Okay, so one final question, if I may. We'll go one by one. If you picked up anything, what was a tip maybe that you picked up? Starting with you, Bill.
I'd probably be the dancing.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Other than the technical details of your lenses and so forth, but
Yeah.
Interacting with the music and taking pictures is something I would never think of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'd really like to get a picture of you dancing, taking pictures.
Well, if you go to Peace Town, you definitely will see me. But
Where?
Peace Town, right?
yeah,
Town?
that's in Sebastopol every Wednesday during the summer.
Yeah, good to know.
I like your idea of shooting the audience,
Mhm.
people watching.
Yeah.
Well,
I think your whole body of work is very inspirational, very motivating. You got you some great shots and such
Yeah.
a variety of different things.
Mhm.
Thank you. But you know what?
Especially your art of getting the right gesture. You have a real knack for that.
timing. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, a lot of good ideas there.
And a lot of good
Technical things
technical
you,
tips too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured what would be the point in talking without talking about the technical, because
Yeah.
not just about the approach, but
uh-huh.
I wanted
Yeah.
to.
And then being, always try to do that, but it's hard. But like you said, maybe staying in one place instead of trying to work the audience, or that's a good way to get a good position and wait for it to happen. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
The one place primarily when it comes to classical music, because distracting the audience is a much bigger sin there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're in a rock crowd or even jazz or a place where people are moving, you can get away with that. In fact, like at Peacetown, I'm always moving. I'm always, I usually don't stand in one spot. But because there's so much going on, with the audience, there's kids, there's picnics, there's all the hippies, there's the dope smoking.
Yeah.
It goes on and on. But at its core, the reason why I enjoy doing this so much is because I just love it. It's just I'd be there anyway, even the music, and it makes me want to go out there, and I love the play, and it also gives me a chance to see performances as well. And like I said, if this can get you an entree into places that you love, then do it. Offer your photo services, and give it a try, see if it works for you. Okay.
You can see the love through your photography.
Thank you. Steve, okay, who else hasn't answered what they picked up?
Oh,
Steve?
the special lighting I thought was great. That you work with all the time.
Yeah. And your go-to lens.
Yeah. That's one thing I wanted to make a big point on, is that you don't have to have a lot of gear. You don't need your telephoto. You don't need a zoom lens. You just keep it really simple when you're out there, for two reasons. Number one, if you're not getting paid for it, then just keep it as simple and comfortable as you can. Like I said, 85 is good enough. 50 is really good. Or sometimes I even will take, I know if it's a cramped place, like in Sebastopol, there's a Hop Monk.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, they have music there every Wednesday night for free. But since it's so condensed there, that's pretty much the only place where I'll take a wide angle, a 24, right there, just because, it's hard to get. Well, for one thing, the lighting is really bad. That's another thing I want to tell you. Final thing, maybe my final thing is that, this LEDs are the worst to shoot under.
Oh,
Yeah, they just they for some reason or they end up going to the blue and the magenta terribly. Not like at least the incandescent, the tungsten you can filter out, but the LEDs are very difficult to filter out.
mhm. Seems like having a 1.8 or a 1.2 lens,
Really be helpful.
85, is really helpful because that's a lot of indoor shooting in dark.
But there's a lot of there's plenty of stage lighting on there.
Is there?
Yeah, so like I said, 1600, sometimes 1200, sometimes 1000, but usually 1600 at 250 to the second. And Steve, I really am so jealous of that 8512. I had that for a time, and unfortunately I had to sell it because I needed the money, and I regretted selling it ever since.
That
Do you-
lens, I could just take that one lens and get great shots and never even think about wanting a different lens.
Wow.
It's a heavy piece of glass, though. That's the only thing.
Is yours a mirrorless camera now?
Me? No, it's a Canon 5D Mark II. It's,
Okay, the 5D. That's
It's-
right,
it's
you
a-
said that.
2009 version. I still keep it.
Oh, I still have it and still use it as my primary.
Mhm.
That'll change soon.
In fact, I found a second body through. Is it MPB or is it MBP? That used camera store. I think it's MPB, and I got a used 5D Mark II for like $450.
Wow, that's good.
Is that online?
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I will let you go on to evenings.
No, thank you very much. That's
Thank
great.
Thank you. That was very
Thank you.
fun.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely
you.
fantastic.
Good job.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you.
sharing.
See you out and about. Thanks.
Thank you.
Be on the dance floor.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
To be able to